Buddy Holly. Buddy Holly was no stranger to the road. By early 1959, the 22-year-old rock and roll pioneer was exhausted from the relentless tour schedule of the Winter Dance Party. The brutal Midwest cold had turned the bus rides into misery. So when the chance came to charter a small plane from Clear Lake, Iowa to Fargo, North Dakota, Holly seized it. But before he left, he had an unsettling feeling. According to his wife, Maria Elena Holly, he told her, "I've got a funny feeling," though he didn't explain further. Even more eerie, she later revealed that he had described a nightmare about a plane crashing in flames. At the time, he brushed it off. In hindsight, it felt like a warning. On the night of February 2nd, 1959, Holly, along with Richie Valens and J.P. the Big Bopper Richardson, boarded a Beechcraft Bonanza piloted by Roger Peterson. The flight lasted only a few minutes before vanishing into the dark, wintry sky. Poor weather and pilot disorientation sent the plane crashing into a frozen Iowa cornfield, killing everyone on board instantly. The wreckage was discovered the next morning, confirming the worst. Adding to the chilling premonition, Maria Elena later shared that Holly often spoke about dying young, as if he knew his time would be short. Whether it was intuition or coincidence, his tragic end cemented his legacy. The crash became immortalized as "the day the music died," a phrase made famous by Don McLean's song American Pie. Decades later, experts revisited the crash, with a 2015 National Transportation Safety Board review reaffirming that pilot error and poor weather were the primary causes. Still, Holly's eerie dream lingers as part of his legend, one of those moments where fate seems to whisper before it strikes. Bobby Driscoll. March 30th, 1968. A cold, abandoned tenement on East 10th Street in New York City. Inside, a man lay motionless on a cot, unnoticed for days. No ID, no headlines, just another John Doe. The city buried him on Hart Island, an unmarked grave among thousands. What no one realized? They had just laid to rest Bobby Driscoll, the former Disney golden boy, the voice of Peter Pan, and a child star who once had the world at his feet. And the most haunting part? He seemed to know it would end this way. Driscoll had been Hollywood's darling in the 1940s and early 50s. He won a Juvenile Academy Award in 1949, starred in Disney's Treasure Island, and became the face of Peter Pan. But fame is fickle. By 16, Disney dropped him. His youthful looks faded, acne scars marred his face, and the roles disappeared. The rejection sent him into a downward spiral. By the early 1960s, he was battling substance issues, cycling through failed comebacks, arrests, and growing isolation. Friends later recalled his growing despair. He spoke of how Hollywood had discarded him, how he feared he would be forgotten. Some say he even predicted he would die alone, unknown. Whether those exact words were ever spoken is uncertain, but the way his life ended makes the speculation all the more chilling. When his body was found in '68, no one connected the nameless man to the former child star. His identity remained a mystery for a year until his mother, desperate for answers, pushed for a fingerprint match. By then, he had already been buried, his name lost to time. Driscoll's story remains one of Hollywood's darkest cautionary tales, a brutal reminder that fame fades fast and sometimes the fall is just as tragic as one fears it will be. Hank Williams. Hank Williams was just 29 when he was found lifeless in the backseat of his blue Cadillac on New Year's Day 1953. But if you listen to his music, or the way he spoke about his own fate, you might think he saw it coming. His final single, released just weeks before his death, was titled, "I'll Never Get Out of This World Alive." It wasn't just a song, it felt like a warning. Williams had long battled chronic pain, likely due to a congenital spinal condition, and turned to painkillers and alcohol for relief. His health was deteriorating fast, and those close to him could see it. On the last night of his life, he was en route to a concert in Canton, Ohio, but never made it. His driver, Charles Carr, later recalled that Williams barely moved during the trip. Some accounts suggest that at one point, when asked how he was feeling, he muttered something along the lines of, "Take me home, buddy. I won't live to see tomorrow." Hours later, he was gone. The official cause of death was heart failure, though many believe his years of substance use played a major role. Whether his song was a grim premonition or just an eerie coincidence, it sealed his legacy as the man who seemed to sing his own fate. Patsy Cline. March 3rd, 1963. Patsy Cline had just wrapped up a performance in Kansas City. The skies were ominous, warnings of storms filled the air, and friends begged her to wait. But Cline, ever headstrong, reportedly shrugged it off. "When it's my time to go, it's my time," she allegedly said. 2 days later, her plane went down in the woods of Camden, Tennessee, claiming the lives of everyone on board. She was only 30 years old. What makes this chilling isn't just the tragedy. It's the eerie sense that Klein saw it coming. Fellow country legend Loretta Lynn later recalled how Klein confided in her, saying, "Honey, I've got a feeling I won't be around much longer." Some accounts suggest she spent her final weeks giving away personal belongings almost as if she were preparing for the inevitable. While no official records confirm this, the whispers persist. Her fear wasn't unfounded. In 1961, Klein survived a brutal car crash that left her hospitalized for weeks with a fractured hip and a dislocated jaw. Afterwards, she reportedly told friends she felt like she was living on borrowed time. Whether it was intuition, a subconscious recognition of the dangers of constant travel, or pure coincidence, one thing is undeniable. Patsy Cline had an unsettling foresight into her own fate. Even in death, her voice never faded. With haunting hits like Crazy and I Fall to Pieces, she remains one of the most influential figures in country music. And maybe that's the most haunting part. She knew she wouldn't be here long, but she made sure the world would never forget her. Johnny Ace. Christmas night, 1954. Backstage at Houston City Auditorium, the air was thick with excitement, musicians tuning up, stagehands scrambling, the hum of an eager crowd just beyond the curtain. In the middle of it all stood Johnny Ace, the 25-year-old R&B star whose smooth ballads had made him a household name. But instead of focusing on the show, he was toying with a revolver. Ace had a well-known habit of handling guns recklessly. Friends recalled how he would casually wave them around, treating them more like stage props than deadly weapons. That night he was in a playful mood, spinning the small .22 caliber revolver in his hand, pointing it at himself and others, laughing as he assured everyone, "It's not loaded, see?" Then in a single horrifying instant he pulled the trigger. A shot rang out, the bullet struck him in the head. He collapsed, lifeless. Witnesses were frozen in shock. Among them was blues legend Big Mama Thornton, who later confirmed the tragic accident. Reports suggest his fiancée, Olivia Gibbs, may have been present as well, though accounts vary. What made the moment even more chilling was Ace's attitude toward his own mortality. According to those who knew him, he had often joked about not living past 25, as if he had sensed his own fate closing in. Some say it was just the bravado of youth, a man living fast without a second thought for tomorrow. Others wonder if he had an eerie premonition all along. Either way, Johnny Ace's career ended in an instant, leaving behind a haunting legacy of what could have been. Rudolph Valentino. Rudolph Valentino was the ultimate silent film heartthrob, a man whose mere presence on screen sent audiences into a frenzy. But in the months leading up to his death in 1926, he reportedly had a chilling vision of his own funeral, one that would come true in eerie detail. According to those close to him, Valentino confided in friends about a dream where he saw himself lying in state, surrounded by grieving fans. He described the overwhelming sadness, the sea of mourners, the hysteria in the streets. And then in August of that year, it happened. After collapsing in his New York hotel room, Valentino was rushed to the hospital, suffering from severe abdominal pain. Doctors diagnosed him with perforated ulcers that had led to peritonitis, a condition that at first seemed treatable. Surgery was performed, and for a brief moment it seemed like he might recover. But fate had other plans. Just days later, his condition worsened, and on August 23rd he was gone, at only 31 years old. What followed was nothing short of surreal. Valentino's body was placed at Campbell Funeral Home in New York, and just as he had envisioned, thousands of fans flooded the streets. Some reports claim over 100,000 people gathered, desperate for a final glimpse of their fallen idol. The crowd became so chaotic that riots broke out, and some mourners even fainted from grief. And then there's the ring. Valentino owned a distinctive piece of jewelry, a ring he reportedly referred to as cursed. Some accounts claim he was warned against buying it, while others suggest the curse was a story that grew after his death. But what is true is that the ring didn't disappear with him. Over the years it changed hands, and strange misfortunes seemed to follow its owners. One of the most famous cases? Singer Russ Columbo, who reportedly came into possession of the ring and later died in a freak shooting accident in 1934. Then there was gangster Joe Casino, who allegedly mocked the curse, only to meet an untimely end not long after acquiring the ring. Coincidence? Maybe. But the legend of Valentino's eerie premonition and the mystery of the so-called cursed ring have ensured that his death remains one of Hollywood's most haunting tales. Eddie Cochran. Eddie Cochran had the world at his feet in early 1960. At just 21, he was already a rock and roll icon, riding high off hits like Summertime Blues and Come On Everybody. But beneath the fame, something gnawed at him, an unshakable sense of doom. Before leaving for his UK tour, He confided in friends about a deep unease, hinting that he feared something terrible awaited him. Some say he even voiced concerns about dying young, though whether this was a true premonition or just a passing fear remains up for debate. On April 16, 1960, Cochrane played what would be his final show at the Bristol Hippodrome. Hours later, in the early morning of April 17th, he and his entourage, his girlfriend and songwriter Sharon Sheeley, along with fellow musician Gene Vincent, piled into a Ford Consul taxi heading for London's Heathrow Airport. They never made it. Near Chippenham, Wiltshire, the speeding car lost control and crashed. Cochrane, seated in the back, was thrown from the vehicle and suffered severe head injuries. He was rushed to St. Martin's Hospital in Bath, but by the next day he was gone, just as he had feared. Sheeley and Vincent survived, but the crash left lasting scars. Vincent, already struggling with a leg injury from a previous accident, suffered further damage, and the trauma haunted him for the rest of his life. As for Sheeley, she later recalled how Cochrane had been unusually anxious before the tour, as if he sensed something terrible was coming. Whether it was intuition, coincidence, or something more, his eerie apprehension remains one of rock and roll's most chilling mysteries. Dorothy Dandridge. Dorothy Dandridge had a way of sensing the storm before it hit. In the final months of her life, those closest to her noticed a shift, an unshakable feeling that something was coming. She spoke of an eerie premonition, a sense that her time was running out. Though she never gave a specific deadline, friends recalled her making fatalistic remarks about her future. On the night of September 7, 1965, she spoke on the phone with her close friend Jerry Branton. The conversation was heavy, filled with both reflection and resignation. At one point, she sang Barbra Streisand's People from start to finish. Before hanging up, she left Branton with a cryptic farewell. "Whatever happens, I know you will understand." The next day, Dorothy Dandridge was found lifeless in her Los Angeles apartment. The official cause of death was ruled an accidental substance-related incident involving the antidepressant tofranil, leading to a cerebral hemorrhage. But early reports were murky, with some initially suggesting a blood clot. Rumors swirled. Was it truly an accident or something more sinister? Despite speculation, the coroner's report found no evidence of foul play. Adding to the mystery, some accounts claim that in her final days, she began making quiet preparations, settling affairs, giving away personal belongings, and even leaving instructions for how her body should be handled. However, no official records confirm this, leaving it as one of the many haunting whispers surrounding her tragic end. What remains undeniable is the eerie way she seemed to sense the inevitable, as if fate had already written her final chapter. Sam Cooke. Sam Cooke had a voice that could melt stone, smooth, powerful, and charged with raw emotion, but behind the success he carried an unsettling belief. His time was running out. Friends recalled him saying almost casually, "I don't think I'll live past 30. Though he ultimately lived to 33, the eerie foresight lingered. He often spoke of feeling watched, as if danger loomed just out of sight. Paranoia or something more? On the night of December 11, 1964, his premonition became reality. Cooke was shot and killed at the Hacienda Motel in Los Angeles. The official story? The motel's manager, Bertha Franklin, claimed self-defense, stating Cooke had burst into her office, demanding to know the whereabouts of a woman he had been with earlier that night. But the details never sat right with many. Why was Cooke found wearing only a sports jacket and shoes? Why did Elisa Boyer, the woman from that night, leave the scene and later give conflicting statements? And why did Cooke himself seem to sense something was coming for him? His death was ruled justifiable homicide, but speculation has never faded. Some believe his rising influence in the civil rights movement made him a target, though no direct evidence supports this. Others point to the murky circumstances, whispering of a setup. The Netflix documentary Remastered: The Two Killings of Sam Cooke reignited these questions, exploring the forces that may have been working against him. What's undeniable is Cooke's lasting impact on soul music and American culture. But that eerie feeling he carried, the sense that his days were numbered, makes his tragic end all the more haunting. Lupe Velez. December 13, 1944. Lupe Velez, the fiery Mexican Spitfire of Hollywood's golden age, had built a career on passion, drama, and unrelenting charisma, but in her final days, those closest to her recalled an unsettling certainty in her voice, an eerie resignation. She allegedly confided in friends that she saw no way forward, that scandal would consume her legacy. Whether it was heartbreak, career struggles, or fear of public disgrace, Velez took control of her fate with chilling precision. That evening, she carefully arranged her bedroom, adorning it with fresh flowers. Dressed in an elegant silk gown, she took a lethal dose of Seconal, a powerful barbiturate. A note left behind expressed sorrow and a final wish, to be remembered not for tragedy but for the fire that had made her a star. Yet Hollywood had other plans. Despite official reports confirming she passed away in her bed, a grotesque rumor emerged, claiming she died in a humiliating accident. This falsehood, likely born from Hollywood's ruthless fascination with fallen stars, overshadowed the truth. Her eerie foresight, her methodical planning, everything pointed to a woman who, even in her final hours, refused to let fate dictate her story. And yet in death she became a legend wrapped in myth, her real tragedy buried beneath the sensationalism she had feared. Carole Lombard. January 15th, 1942. Carole Lombard stood before a roaring crowd in Indianapolis, her voice ringing with determination. She had spent the night rallying Americans to buy war bonds, throwing herself into the cause with the same fearless energy that made her a Hollywood legend. But as the evening wound down, unease crept in. Her mother, Elizabeth Peters, and her press agent, Otto Winkler, urged her to take the train back to Los Angeles. It was safer. She refused. The plane was faster. She wanted to get home to Clark Gable. What makes this decision so eerie is a long-whispered rumor, one that claims a fortune-teller once warned Lombard to avoid air travel. Whether she truly believed in the prophecy or brushed it off as nonsense, no one knows for sure. But on that cold January night, she made her choice, and fate was waiting. The next evening, January 16th, Lombard boarded Transcontinental and Western Airlines Flight 3 with her mother and Winkler. The plane made a scheduled stop in Albuquerque, where it nearly left without her. 15 Army Air Corps personnel needed seats, and Lombard was close to being bumped. She fought to stay on, arguing that her war bond efforts justified her priority. She won the argument. Shortly after takeoff from Las Vegas, the aircraft veered off course. At 7:20 p.m., it slammed into Potosi Mountain, Nevada. The impact killed all 22 people on board instantly. Clark Gable was shattered. When he arrived at the crash site, he reportedly had to be held back from climbing the rugged terrain himself. Grief-stricken and consumed by guilt, he later enlisted in the Army Air Forces, throwing himself into combat missions over Europe. Lombard was just 33 years old, a star at the height of her career, gone in an instant. And to those who knew her, the eerie warnings, the fortune-teller's prophecy, her mother's pleas, became impossible to ignore. James Dean. James Dean had a need for speed, but some say fate warned him to slow down. In late September of 1955, Dean showed off his brand new Porsche 550 Spyder to actor Alec Guinness outside a Hollywood restaurant. Guinness later claimed he felt an immediate sense of dread. According to his memoir, he told Dean, "If you get in that car, you will be found dead in it by this time next week." Dean reportedly laughed off the warning. 7 days later, on September 30th, Dean's Porsche collided with another vehicle on a California highway. He was just 24. The eerie part? Some say Dean had an unsettling premonition about his own fate. While no direct quotes confirm it, rumors persist that he believed he wouldn't live past 30. Whether it was intuition or coincidence, his untimely death locked him in time as Hollywood's eternal rebel. And as for his car, Little Bastard, legends claim its wreckage carried a dark curse linked to a string of later accidents. True or not, the myth only deepened the mystery surrounding Dean's tragic end. Jane Mansfield. June 29th, 1967. A dark Louisiana highway. Jane Mansfield, the blonde bombshell known for her roles in B-movies and her flamboyant persona, was riding in a Buick Electra, speeding toward New Orleans. But Mansfield wasn't just a performer. She had a well-documented fascination with the occult. According to later accounts, she reportedly received a chilling warning from a psychic. She would meet her end in a car accident. Whether she truly believed it or not remains unclear, but that night, the prophecy, or pure misfortune, unfolded. Around 2:25 a.m., the car slammed into the back of a slow-moving tractor-trailer. The impact was devastating. Mansfield, her driver, and her lawyer were killed instantly. The gruesome nature of the crash fueled one of Hollywood's most infamous urban legends, that she had been decapitated. In reality, the coroner's report confirmed she died from massive head trauma. Still, the eerie accuracy of the rumored psychic prediction only deepened the mystery surrounding her fate. Had she truly foreseen her own death, or was it a tragic coincidence? Either way, her obsession with the supernatural made her untimely end one of Hollywood's most haunting tragedies. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave a like and comment. Also consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell to get notified of our new videos each week. Thanks for watching.